Alrighty, sports fans, welcome on in. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Of course, proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I'm not Sean. I'm Scott Mitchell, filling in for Sean today and tomorrow. So welcome to the program. So glad you could be here and be a part of us. If you can't, or if you would, there's more you want to listen to, you can't hear the whole show, you can stream live on ESPN700sports.com, the ESPN 700 app, or you can just tell your smart speaker to play ESPN 700. We're also on YouTube at ESPN 700 Sports Utah. And the old podcaster, you can get that anywhere you get your podcast, but you can also get it on ESPN700sports.com. All right, welcome to the show. So much to talk about today. We're going to have a lot of fun. Coach Gordy Chiesa is in the house. We're going to get Coach for an hour, which will be a lot of fun. A lot of crazy, a lot of really neat stuff going on in the NBA. But what the freaking hell, Jazz? What's wrong with you? How can you win a freaking game? You only have 3 games left, and you don't do it. I am furious. I wanted to come in here with a good attitude and be positive and happy, and the Jazz ruined it by winning. Is there a swear word? Is there a swear word? I want to know the worst swear word that I can say on the air without getting my fingers chopped off. Do you know a swear word I can say? I won't say it, James. I promise. I'll just say it internally.
Damn it, Scott. I know.
What's going on? And I had a feeling they were going to go do something stupid like win a basketball game. Don't they understand what's going on in the world of sports today?
Do you understand what's at stake, Scott? I was yelling at my TV.
I know.
I didn't watch the whole game. I watched the second half after the Lakers-Mavs game was over, which was also a lot of fun to see Luka just give it to his former team.
Yeah.
But that was I was screaming at my TV.
So bad.
Could not believe I was almost more mad at the Blazers for knowing how to lose better than Jazz
that's the thing,
did.
right? It's like take a page, please. Like miss 4 of the last 6 free throws and miss a point-blank layup. Come on. Nobody does that in the NBA. Nobody.
Keontae George has to catch fire in overtime. Like, what are we doing?
Who are
Jazz?
you people? You need to learn better. You need better manners than what you had. So we got a lot of fun stuff. We're going to go through all this with Coach. Everything is happening in the NBA. What does all this mean for the Utah Jazz? What to look for going? Because there were some pretty interesting things. Of course, Mike Malone was fired from the Nuggets. What does that look like? And Jokic kind of had some things to say about it. And then, of course, I believe it's tonight. Memphis plays Minnesota. That's an interesting game. It's here on ESPN 700. Not only do you get the NBA games that mean anything, but you also get the playoffs. So tune in for all that great stuff. Going to talk some Utes later on, and nothing better than a tradition like none other. The Masters just started today. Of course, this morning early, you had some of the greats, Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson and Gary Player, tee off on the first tee. Kind of makes you a little sad, though, if you watch that and you see Jack Nicklaus doesn't quite have the swing he used to have. He looks like me trying to turn on my swing. It's just a little stiff right now. So, but the Masters is going on, and we love the Masters. So that's very exciting. And so a great show today. A lot of really fun things. But there was a story that I read this morning, and it really kind of hit me in a very tender place. And it's a so I want to share it with you, and it's something that actually recently happened with an NBA player, Lonzo Ball, and he was hosting the family. He received some knee cartilage, and the knee cartilage he got was from a young man who was 20 years old from South Dakota who was killed in an accident, and he received the cartilage, which actually has helped Lonzo come back and play basketball. And Lonzo wanted to meet the family and actually wanted to have them come to the game. And, of course, he gave him a jersey and what have you. But the young man, his name was Alex, his mom had this to say about this experience. It's been extremely emotional. She said, it's so much happiness comes with it. All of the people that are a donor recipient of Alex's we're just blessed. We've had mothers from some people that have said things. Now we get to meet Lonzo Ball, and it's just a blessing to be able to watch people do well with their knees or anything because of Alex. Of course, we wish he was here. And so that I love these stories. I don't know if you want to call them redemption or tender mercies or kind of a special silver lining in such a tragic thing that happens, and so it was neat, to see this. Now I've experienced this in my own life, and I've witnessed this, and it to this day touches me quite tenderly when I see something like this. And when I was coaching high school football, and we had a player who was in an accident in the parking lot right at the end of practice, and he tragically passed away. And it was a single car freak accident, open air Jeep. We literally were leaving the practice field to go to the high school in the locker room. The player's going to put their gear away. It was a summer practice. It was early in the morning, and there were 4 players in a Jeep, and they kind of messing around a little bit. And so they decided to, do what teenagers do, something dumb and stupid, which is what this Alex's mother said. He just went full speed all the time. And that's what you do as a teenager. I mean, I think of how miraculously I wasn't killed doing the stupid things that I did growing up. And so, of course, very sad, tragic accident happened right in front of our entire football team in the parking lot. And it was horrible. And it was just really sad. I had a player who passed away, and it was really hard on a lot of people in the community and on our football team, and what do you do about it, and what there's so much that goes into the whole story, and I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but it was such a tragic moment. And then this happened. And it was remarkable to see all the amazing things that came out of this. We had a special service, memorial service for this young man, and a lot of people were there, and to be a part of it. They asked me to speak at it, which is really hard to do, and then a gentleman was there to speak as well. And he gets up and he starts telling about his son who was 10. And he said, I have a 10-year-old son, and in his 10 years, I've watched him die 3 times. And each time he's died, they've been able to revive him. And they, miraculously, he didn't permanently die. And we've been on a donor list for a kidney for 410 days. And we were kind of at the end of our rope. It was over. We were just done. And so we as a family, a community, our church congregation decided to have a special prayer and fast for my son. And literally right when it was over, we got a phone call, and there was a perfect match. And so he's telling this story in this memorial service. And he says, I know this is a tragic day for all of you. And he goes, but for me, I've witnessed a miracle. And my son today lives because of this tragedy that's happened in your life. And so there is something positive that can come out of those really, really challenging and difficult parts of your life. And I think a lot of times as sports fans, I know my time as a professional athlete, like I thought the world, revolved around sports. The sun rose and set on professional football, and you're so like into that world, and you get almost a warped sense of like what really matters and what's really important in life. for this 10-year-old boy, just being able to live, just being able to go past a certain moment in his life, to be able to go and who knows all of the things that he's able to do. But it literally was a perfect match. Like they couldn't have asked for a better thing to happen. And so it was just this remarkable experience. And then about a year later, a woman showed up in Springville, Utah, which is where I coached and where I grew up. And she goes into the grocery store. And she actually says, she goes, "Hey, I need to find a cemetery. I'm lost." And they ask in the grocery store, "Well, which cemetery?" Because there's two in Springville. And she says, this young boy, he donated a liver a year ago. And I wanted to go and pay my respects. And my 1 year anniversary, and the gentleman at the grocery store said, "Hey, look, I got better than that. His mom works here at the grocery store." So this woman got to meet this player of mine who passed away, his mom, and just tell, she got to tell Brandon's mom, thank you, and this has meant everything. My life goes on, my life lives, and so it was a really special moment. And so as this woman talked about Lonzo Ball and being able to watch people and see them grow and in their life, it meant a lot to her. And what are the odds of that, right? You go into the grocery store and you run into the mom of the young man that you're going to. So this woman, she lives a life, and she goes on. And so with this player that I had, and it was just so hard for me personally, but all of his major organs he was able to donate. They gave them to people that were in, and they live today. And I believe, when you talk about the ligaments and things like that, I think it was like 69 different parts of his body were actually able to be donated. And so I love these stories, and I've had a very personal, touching experience with one about, in these really tragic times where people actually are able to make something incredibly positive come out of that. And it just always touched me. And I after Brandon had passed away and we went through the football season, we had this incredible football season, and there's still things that they do to this day to honor Brandon and kind of what he meant. And what I realized after a while, and it really gave me some closure to this, is that it would have been really selfish actually for me to hope that he lived, because had he lived, he would have basically been a vegetable, right? He wouldn't have. And so in dying, he actually lived.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And he was, and it did. And I shared it with his parents, and he says, yeah, we had that same kind of confirmation and feeling about all of it. And so, so it's meant a lot to us. But not only did, him donating organs and things, which I think is one of the most beautiful things that you can do, and I really encourage people to do this if they can. I personally have made myself a donor. I don't know if anyone wants my body parts, and the older I get, it's like there's a shelf life to me and whatever I can contribute, but I'm happy to do it. And
check yes on the old
yes.
driver's license renewal, right?
And it's not a big deal, not a big process, but man, it can really, really make a difference. And you never hope for anything like that to happen, but things do happen in life. I mean, we never really, really thought, anything about that. And so it's just always been something that has meant a lot to me. And, they do a thing at the University of Utah. And in fact, the spring game, it's the Forever 22 game is coming up here. And they have this moment of loudness
It's so good every time, Scott.
It never gets old to me. I'm touched by it. In right now, with what's going on. So if you get a chance, and I'm not pubbing this because I'm pubbing it because it's a good thing to do. And they actually, they charge a small admission to the game. It's a great donation. It's all going to go towards a really good cause and something to really focus on. And the scholarship and what they do with all of it is a very, very positive thing. But it's that same attitude, right? So it's like, we want you to celebrate the people that have had an impact in you in your life. And instead of a moment of sadness, they'd want you to celebrate their lives. And that's part of that. That's part of that, how they live on. I mean, you can donate your organs and you can see that people live on, but you can also celebrate and remember the great memories you had of these people. And that memory, always lives on. I think, my parents have both passed away, but yet that my parents live on because I live on, and the memory and the great memories I have of my parents and the good things that they taught me and brought me and the moments. And so I try to always look for the silver lining of everything. I try not to take myself too serious. I know when I played professional sports, James, I'm telling you, I took myself way too serious. Like I was so, like it was life or death. I was thinking about it this morning. For some reason, I thought about Brett Favre. I don't know why I did. And I was like, I hated Brett Favre. And I hated Steve Young. And I hated Troy Aikman. I hated Reggie White. I hated everybody
when you were playing.
When I was playing football,
you hated them if they weren't on your team.
Hated them if they weren't on my team.
Yeah.
In fact, when you go to a new team, it's actually hard to like that team.
Oh.
Because you hated the team, right? And you were and it was just an era of sports where I didn't want their jersey. I didn't want a picture with them after. Now there was one guy. Okay, I had one exception. And I swear to you, there's only one exception, and that was Ronnie Lott. And Ronnie Lott played for the New York Jets, and I was with the Dolphins, and I played against Ronnie Lott, and he was like one of my heroes, right? And so he was the only guy I ever went up to after a game, and said, "Man, it's been an honor, to play against you." But other than that, like I did not like the other guys. In fact,
this new stuff where they're swapping jerseys and whatnot, that you would never have thought to do that.
See, and now I'm older and I'm like, could we all just get along?
Yeah.
And I wonder how different things would have been.
Do you ever call any of those guys you said you hated when you played? Hey, can we swap jerseys now?
Well, I'd love to get. I think that's the one thing.
You should try that. Give Troy a call. Hey, I hated you when we played. I would never have asked you.
had this to say about quarterbacks. Our number one objective, again, written in the playbook, in the very beginning of the defense, number one, we need to take out the other team's quarterback. I've seen the playbooks.
Take them out.
Take them out of the game.
Oh, wow. Not
like
take them out as in
our chances,
make them ineffective. Actually take them out of the game.
Our chances of winning go up dramatically when the starting quarterback gets removed from the game. And
that makes sense.
Well, no, because, look, when you're the starting quarterback and you go to practice every week, you don't give up practice reps. Like, you're the backup, you don't get any reps. You have to manufacture you get mental reps. You get after practice reps. You get
the film study reps.
Anything you possibly can, because the starter goes, I don't want the backup playing. I don't want that guy taking my job. And he also says, I also don't want I need these reps to get ready to play because there's not that many.
I don't have any
out there.
I don't have a rep to spare. I can't spare a square, Scott.
So the defensive coaches know this. and they go, we know the guy that's behind him is not prepared to play.
Yeah. And that's still a thing today. The backups don't get reps today.
No, it's
right?
It's not any different there. But the game is much kinder and much gentler.
Not the stuff that's written in the defensive playbooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all the things that are penalties today were actual techniques that were described in those playbooks.
So the best thing you got to do is go for their ankle when you're on the ground.
If you get close to a quarterback, fall on the ground and roll. If you're not going to get to him, fall on the ground and roll.
Which, of course, is the Tom Brady no lower than the knee. Can't hit him lower than the knee rule now.
Yeah. And what happens is when they roll, they catch your foot first. And so your foot gets stuck in the ground, and so your foot can't slide or move because their body weight's on it, and then they roll the rest of their body, and you have an MCL sprain. The next one was where they go, when you land, and this is all written, James.
You've seen it in the playbooks.
I've seen it in writing. Okay.
Insane.
So I don't know how we went from please donate to this, but we did.
And your heartfelt stories of which was incredible, which was awesome to hear, Scott.
Yeah,
I'm sorry that happened to one of your players, but it was fun to hear your stories of how you've been able to, you and the family has been able to see the positive from it.
And it's a remarkable, find the silver lining, and no matter what you face in life, you can always make a difference and make an impact in people, and finding ways to do that. So,
but I think that's where we got there. You were starting to say that I took myself too seriously as a player, and now I want to be. But
I knew these teams they hated quarterbacks, and they were trying to get rid of you. So it's why am I your friend? You're trying to hurt me.
You had good reason not to want anything to do with.
And
that.
Here's the crazy part. This is really the crazy part to me. Defensive linemen. Hate quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
But for some reason, the defensive linemen on the teams that I was with tended to be the guys I hung out with the most. Henry Thomas, who was a really, really good defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings. And they had John Randall, Henry, and they had Chris Dolman, and they had a really good defense.
Yeah, that is those
names. And
right
Henry's just one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. But he was there. He was there to hurt me. And so he was in Minnesota, and he came to Detroit and played on our team. And I ended up hanging out with him all the time. He sat next to me on the airplane. He was just the coolest dude in the world. And Tony Saragusa, when I played for the Baltimore Ravens, was just the funnest guy ever. The funniest human being I've ever met in my entire life.
I've heard.
And we hung out all the time. We did, and it was just, oh, my goodness. I mean, I could tell you stories for hours about Tony Saragusa and how. So here was this, and it was really weird. It was
and their job was to take guys like you out of the game.
It would be like Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev hanging out and being best buddies. That's really what that, because it's the very adversarial, but for some reason there was also a tremendous amount of respect.
Yeah.
On both sides of that.
As long as they were your teammate, right?
Right. Yeah. You didn't like them on the other team. No, you hated those guys.
You weren't friends with these guys until you were teammates with
them. But the coolest guy of all was Bruce Smith.
Oh yeah.
And Bruce Smith was Bruce Smith just had a great attitude. He would kill you, but then he'd help you up. And I just couldn't get mad at Bruce Smith. In fact, Bruce Smith every year for Halloween has a graveyard in his front yard. And it's all the quarterbacks he's sacked, and he has them in there. I'm on there, okay? And so for me, I find a badge of honor being in Bruce Smith's graveyard for Halloween.
That's such a good Halloween decoration.
That's a fun thing. And he was really good.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's take a break because the coach is in the house.
Yes, he is.
I got a lot to ask Coach Gordy Chiesa when we get back. But our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time. This is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. We'll be back with the coach around the corner. All righty, sports fans, welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean today and tomorrow. That music right there means only one thing. In fact, anytime I hear that music now, I think of only one person, and that's Coach Gordy Chiesa. He joins us. He's in the house. He's in studio for an hour. I love the time I get to spend with Coach. Welcome in, Coach. How are you today? Life treating you good?
Yes, it is, Scott. Very good. And, Come and Get Your Love by Redbone was originally back in 1974, and many listeners weren't even born yet. But in the great movie, The Guardians of the Galaxy, back in 2015, yes, that's when most younger people first heard this iconic rocking song.
Not to pub Disney, but they have an epic ride at Epcot. Speaking of, and it's a Guardian of the Galaxy, unbelievable, like the most amazing amusement park ride I've ever been on. There was one question I want to ask you before we get going on this, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA, crazy stuff, good, bad, shake your head, Utah Jazz, all of it. When you came to Utah, because I grew up here, like I'm from Utah, I couldn't wait to leave. Like when I was younger, it's like, man, I cannot wait to go see the world. I'm curious, what was your first impression when you came to Utah for the first time?
Well, I came here I got hired by the Jazz August 1st, 1989. And it sounds crazy, but in this area, a lot of it was underdeveloped.
Yeah.
I mean, the Delta Center down the street was underdeveloped. I remember the day when Larry Miller said to me that he has to build a new building because he's losing money playing in the Salt Palace because John and Carl are going to enter their prime. I'm losing money. And that's when the city and the county and the state forefathers gave Larry Miller, the Miller family, the land for $1. Scott,
oh, wow.
$1. Yeah.
That's a good deal.
That's a good deal for everybody involved.
Right.
And so coming back from the East Coast, meaning I'm a native New Jersey, New Yorker for many, many decades, in that when I first came out here, I knew it was a family atmosphere. Remember, Frank Layden, who brought me out here to work with, I worked with Jerry Sloan from the beginning. Jerry's first year as the head coach was my first year also. But Frank Layden was the one that brought us all together, myself, Phil Johnson, and Jerry Sloan. And so Frank is a native Brooklynite, and so I just knew that he was we talked about a lot of different things a long time ago, and that what he said to me was all true, that this is a family-type atmosphere and that your young family will be able to flourish in this, and he was right.
I love Frank Layden. I could talk to Frank Layden forever.
He's right now he's age 93.
Yeah, insane. Oh man, you just memories. I actually moved away, came back. I love being from Utah and love living here. It's a wonderful place, and I am a lifelong Utah Jazz fan. I was here from the beginning, so I've always been a huge fan of the Jazz. It helped me out here. What in the world were they thinking by winning? I know it sounds terrible, but is there any reason why in the world would you win last night? You only have 3 left. Help me, talk me off the ledge here, Coach. What happened with the Jazz last night?
Well, it's the players. I mean, they're in a 9-game losing streak, and as you know, as a former NFL player, that you're competitive, and that a lot of times there's mixed messages, where you want to be the best you could be, but we don't want to win because of the big picture, which I understand. So that's been determined many times ago. However, the players don't want to cooperate totally.
Right.
And so last night, Filipowski, meaning Kyle, didn't cooperate, and he had a monster game, and he outplayed Donovan Clingan throughout the game, and that's what happened. So the Jazz showed their toughness, their courage in this one night where they rallied around each other, and they got the job done. In the big picture, it might set them back. We'll find out. We'll find out as far as on everything when the Jazz pick in the lottery, as far as if they get to 1, 2, 3, or 4. But last night, more importantly, in the smaller, minuscule thing, is that the Jazz played a fine game. They punked the Trailblazers on the boards 56-42, and that Filipowski quickly 30 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists, 3 steals, and 1 block. And the thing about Filipowski that didn't show up his college career, how well he rebounded the ball. So that's surprising that he's got, I call wiry toughness, where he's not strong enough right now to battle all the time. But there's certain situations against Klinger, who's a slow jumper in the lane, he's able to outmaneuver him and rise over him. Those 18 boards are very impressive.
Filipowski was good. Is there anything else about the game that really that you really liked, or was that?
No, I like Bryce Sensabaugh, where again he's a knockdown shooter, so he can make open shots. You get a good feeling when that ball is thrown to him in the corner for that pocket jump shot, meaning 3-pointer, is that he can knock it down. He goes 22 points, 7 for 12 last night, and 6 for 10 from threes. Oh, by the way, Scott, give me the hot sauce.
The hot sauce?
The hot sauce, meaning what? I'm hot right now during the game.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I'm hot during the game.
I'm like, did I forget the hot sauce today?
No, give me the hot sauce.
Understand.
I'm talking like Brent Spencerbaugh. So it's kicking out to the corner for that. I call it a comfort 3. When NBA players make a corner 3, which is 22 feet, James Peterson, our colleague, and I have talked many times over the years. James has mastered the art form of the distance of the 3-point shot. So I don't want to mention that at all, but it's 22 feet. And that's a short, I call it a comfort shot for many, many NBA players.
And it seems to be, and is it just because it is a shorter distance, or is that?
It's shorter. But also is that, but you need discipline. So in the NCAA game on Monday night, when the Houston Cougars were sort of like self-destruction. You could feel it. The tempo was changing. One of the Cougars players put their we call it negative foot on the. He drove to the basket out of the corner on a 3-point shot. They ran him off the line. He put his negative foot back on the line, meaning what? His back foot, and they called what? Out of bounds.
Yeah.
And that's a absolutely critical. Whether you got to step and the ball's passing the corner, you can't step backwards. You got to step into the catch, and that simple thing affected the last 3 minutes of that game, where the Houston Cougars couldn't score a basket for 3 minutes and 24 seconds. So
when you have a young team like the Jazz, and these players, they're learning how to play and they're learning how to play together. Are those the types of things that a veteran team know? Like a veteran, point guard's going to know how to get the ball to Sensabaugh, how to get the ball to him in rhythm, how to create kind of a scenario where they're not in these awkward positions. And could you say maybe that's the biggest difference between maybe some of these younger players and some of these veteran guys who really know how to play together, how to feed off each other, and how to put each other in a good position to succeed on the court?
Yes, very much. So let's add to that. So Isaiah Collier, the young player, you get the feeling that he has an innate ability to do that. Now, can he do it consistently? We're going to find out as the years go on. The better point guards in the NBA, so Chris Paul type, is that they pass most times on time, on target. And so much also is when the ball's passed to you, when the ball's passed to you as a shooter on your inside hand, that tells the receiver to catch and fire. If the ball's passed to you on your outside hand, that tells the receiver to catch and go. And that simple thing is an inside catch or an outside catch helps you shoot dramatically better. And also, we call that a message pass. That in other words, you're open, but you're not free. So that's determined by the passer, who usually point guards get it. And that's why you see so-and-so's got a great catch and fire jump shot. I always say, who's the point guard?
Right, yeah. No, it's fascinating to hear this, because it's exactly the same in football. It's just the location of the pass, when and where, tells you the quarterback is talking to you in that location and saying, you need to turn here, or I'm going to throw it here because he's high. But I got to throw it. You got to look for the ball up high, like low is inside is bad. And the receiver, and when it's done beautifully, it's just masterful. And to me, again, that the point guard is always my favorite player in basketball. So I love. I do want to talk.
So now the point guard, though, Scott, in this generation, though, there's less and less true point guards.
Right.
Now it's only, quote, you're a guard.
Right.
So I always talk about it. Oh, by the way, point guards are important until what? You get to the playoffs in the last 5 minutes of the game, who organizes the offense. Then it's absolutely important. I say it's always important in every single game, just that it's more glaring in the playoffs where you have a hard time scoring because you're not organized. Imagine spending all this time and effort, and in a playoff game, whether it's the NFL or whether it's the NBA, you're not organized to score.
You brought up about Houston kind of having a meltdown, and you saw that with Duke, where they you could feel it. You could feel the momentum just going away, and you could also feel from them, they're like, we have nothing to answer to this. Like so as a coach, when you see that, how do you switch that? I mean, I know everyone calls it timeout or if they can or whatever, but is it going to that point guard? What do you do as a coach to stop momentum in like probably the most critical moment in your entire season?
In play calling, you run the most simplest set. So, for example, for the Houston Cougars, when the guy went up and down as far as the travel on the last
right.
play, as far as Emmanuel Sharp, what happened was before that, though, they took so much time down the floor to run the ball down. So what I'm saying is that what usually speaking, if you want to get the ball to your best shooter, just keep it simple. Wide screening action. Here's the wide screen. Off comes the curl cutter into an inside catch or an outside catch, and the original screener now on a naked side of the floor. Again, these are all terms of any sport. Naked side means what? That there's no help defense on that
right.
side, that the court is tilted to one side. And so this is the action. So the original screener sets the screen. He pops his feet. Off comes the knockdown shooter. The defense has to decide whether to stay body on body, or we call riding the side, or single space through. I set the screen. I pop out for the skip pass jumper, or I roll to the basket. What they did was that they dribbled handoff action, which now suddenly is more time set, and that there's an element of, I get the ball now. See, on a simple play, I know the ball's going to come to either me or the screener. And so it's the simplicity of doing it execution-wise helps the player make a shot.
When you're saying this, I think of Michael Jordan for some reason, and I think of those clutch game-winning shots, including the one against the Jazz, was at the top of the key in the middle of the court, and then I think of Craig Elo when he did it again, and these other times. But then there were other times where he was double. They just said, "You're not going to beat us. I don't care." And then he dished it off to a Steve Kerr or Jed Bushel, and they just knocked down a very easy. I don't want to say easy, but a wide open shot, and a lot of times they're going to make it. And so it's not overly complicated, and it just frees these people up. I was actually really glad I got to ask this. Okay, I want to get back to Jazz for a minute. So the Jazz, who knows how the rest of the season goes? Maybe they win one of the last two, maybe they don't. But they're probably they're gonna either end up 1 or 2 in the draft. So the best case scenario for the Jazz in the lottery is a number 1 pick. The worst case, if they end up at 5 or at 1, is they could go to 5. But if they end up at 2, they could go to 6. And so let's say the worst case scenario, what's the difference when you're picking that high in the draft as a team? What's the difference between the 5th and the 6th pick in the lottery?
Nominal.
Yeah,
nominal.
Okay.
Yeah, nominal. Absolutely. Because remember, again, there'll be some guys that you're not going to talk about 3 years from now. I can't believe this guy wasn't even drafted.
Right.
And suddenly in a playoff game, he's putting on our face 33 points. I just described Austin Reeves.
Yep.
So again, Cooper Flagg is this unbelievable, talented young guy. He's 18 years old. Is he old or young? And so he is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Everybody says it. I'm going to agree with them, which most times I usually don't, but I will this time. I agree with them. And so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can debate that all the time. The second pick should be a guy named Ace Bailey from Rutgers, right? Rutgers. Scott, you know about Rutgers. That's my home state, New Jersey.
You just know people from New Jersey. They're all good. You can't go wrong with someone from New Jersey.
As a matter of
right?
fact, Scott Mitchell, I'm thinking about you and your dynasty.
Okay.
All right. What's the nickname of New Jersey as far as the state? It's an oddity.
Let's see. Oh.
No, it's an oddity. And James Peterson, you can
What
jump
is-
in there
what
also.
is-
The nickname. I had to think of Rutgers.
It's not the.
It's a weird nickname.
I wanted to say the Gem State, but it's not the Gem State.
No, it's not. But
The Garden State,
that's
Gordy.
exactly
The Garden
right.
State, yes.
So New
It's
Jersey.
not the oil and petrochemical refinement.
You got
state.
that right, James. James talking very similar to northern New Jersey, where it's an industrial, incredible,
Right.
high in density, crazy area. Oh, by the way, it's called the Garden State. Really? How? Why Garden State? And so Rutgers, getting back to Ace Bailey, and getting back also to Dylan Harper. There's Ron Harper's son. Is that there'll be either 2 or 3 in the draft? Is that those guys went to Rutgers, the Garden State, and that they're going to could be Utah bound, if not Cooper Flag.
Yeah.
Could be.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask about how much of a better evaluation does it mean more to you when you're looking at these players, whether it's Harper or Flag or Ace or whomever it is, when they make a deep run into the NCAA championship, does that give them an advantage? Does it matter? Is it how much more confident do you feel about a guy in your evaluation when you get to see him in kind of a competitive, even in a championship type setting?
It helps them certainly, absolutely. Is that for the Florida Gators, Houston Cougars, Cooper Flag, who played great in the loss against Houston, it helps them. Now, for example, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, those guys didn't have a winning record at Rutgers.
Right.
Yikes.
Yeah.
How can these two guys be the second, third pick of the draft? Allegedly now, it could change. I get that. And have a winning record because they put all their NIL money on these two guys to the extreme of the extreme. Scott, did I say extreme? To the
I got
money.
it. Yeah.
And that the other guys did not receive as much, and that created a roster tilt. So the Rutgers University, the roster was tilted dramatically for these two guys. And by the way, the Big Ten's a very highly competitive league, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
And so again, the ability to win, especially if you're a major talent on the road. Most players can win if you're talented, can win home games, but can you win road games? And that makes so many college kids not ready for the moment, and NBA players also they can't imagine how hard it is to win on the road regular season, and then in the playoffs. If you win a road game in the playoffs, you fly back to your home city without an airplane. You're so high. You're literally you're laughing, Scott, because it happened to you a lot of times that you're up in the sky above sea level, 34,000 feet. Oh, by the way, we won a playoff road game. I'm so high mentally, physically, and spiritually. I'm gonna have a soft landing.
All right. Speaking of
Soft landings?
no, Harper.
Harper.
Right. So he's the son of Ron Harper. Dylan Harper.
Yep, Dylan Harper.
How many NBA guys? I was going to ask you this question actually. How many NBA players and son players have actually exceeded the play of their father? I mean, I think of Dale Curry, Steph Curry, but you think of you have LeBron and Bronny James. Do many of the sons actually outperform their fathers, or is it mostly the other way around?
I think it's really case by case.
Yeah,
I think it really is. Yeah, based on the talent level of this sibling, it's hard when your dad's an elite player. It's really difficult for the son to surpass it because everyone's comparing your abilities plus your statistics to your father.
Right.
That's very common in any profession. You're a young recording artist, and suddenly your dad is famous, but how come you're not as good? It's hard.
The Mannings are the ones that just boggle my mind. It's like, I mean, could you imagine being the father of two probably Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and you have a grandson that's probably going to be a first-round pick in the draft, and oh, by the way, you were pretty darn good yourself. It's
meaning Archie Manning.
Yeah, meaning Archie. That's
and Archie Manning, for the younger listeners, played for the New Orleans Saints most of his career, and he had a bad team. And so his numbers were really good, and he played really well, and he played when he was hurt. And that's a huge factor, the ability to play relatively well when you're hurt versus being injured. And there's two different things. Oh, by the way, Chris Paul right now, going to be 40 in next month, he's purposely trying to play in every Spurs game. He's at 79 right now with 3 games left. So at age 39, I'll be 40 next month, meaning Chris Paul.
Right.
I'm going to play in all 82 games. Let's add to that. He's a free agent next July 1st, and that it tells us that part of his dialogue by his agent to either the Spurs or his new team, that my guy's durable. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
LeBron's durable. So is my guy. He played all 82 games.
Do you think people really care though? I mean, because it just seems like it's a more of an anomaly in the NBA today. It seems like more player. That this whole load management thing, and in order to have more longevity, I'm gonna pace myself. I mean, do people really care? I mean, I do. I hate it. I love that I think these players should play every night. And if they can't play every night, they need to change the schedule, figure out. But I as a fan, if I go to a game, I want to see the best players on the court every single night.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And so that's the great dilemma. And also the TV partners are saying the exact same thing. Hey, we're not paying billions of dollars, meaning the new TV partners now, Amazon
right
/ Prime. How crazy is that? They're part of the contract now. And also the Peacock, meaning NBC. Hey, we bought into this contractually. We want to see the best players' product out there, minus being injured, which is a big difference. I have a severe sprained ankle. Look at my ankle. You're exactly right. You can't play, and that's different. But if you can play, we want you to perform.
All right,
that's what makes John Stockton so great, Scott.
I know. I
Think
love
about
it.
Stockton. Again, I am not living in the past. So you're driving right now. Why is Gordy tripping right now? Why is he living in the past? I am not. I live in the present tense. I'm right now with my pal Scott Mitchell right now here in ESPN Radio 7 studio. But Stockton, by the way, in case you forgot this, is that he played in the NBA 19 years. And I can assure you, he played on both sides of the ball, offense, defense. He played all 82 games 17 times out of the 19 years. With the only one time he had the flu back in 1989-90, and that's when it's hard to believe. It's almost like it's almost like having a landlocked phone. Is that we flew commercial back in 1989-90, and Stockton was, the expression, you're sick as a dog. Well, he was sick as a dog. We played in Charlotte. He had the flu. He could not see what was going on. We sent him home via commercial. He missed 4. Again, it's a. What are you talking about? Commercial? What? That's for guys like Scott and I and James. We fly commercial. We flew him commercial home. And then the Olympics in 1996 in Atlanta, he broke his tibia, and he missed the first 18 games of the year. And Howard Isley and rookie Jock Vaughn stepped in admirably, and the team performed, and he came back, and that was it. The other 17 years, all 82.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I appreciate that, and that's what I want. And I think a lot of fans want that as well. All right, there's two regular season games left in the season, and we talk about Chris Paul wanting to finish out and play all of the games. What do you get out of the last 2 games of a season? And I'll just say the teams that are headed to the playoffs, because right now it's been defined. Like everyone who's eliminated is eliminated. There's some jockeying between seeding, but all of the playoff teams and the play-in teams are defined right now. So what do you get out of the last 2 games of the season heading into the playoffs?
Okay, if you're a playoff team, you are absolutely praying that nobody gets hurt. So it's that unbelievable thing where we might play a part of the game that you stay sharp, but we're taking you out. So, for example, last night, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all right, did not play against the Suns where the Thunder didn't need him. They won. but they held him out. He had some shin issues. Okay, so he'd be a classic example where maybe if they were fighting to be for the first seed, as far as with the Rocket, which they're not, they're declared the first seed, is that he might have played, but they held him out. And so you don't want to have risk any sort of injury to your key guys. Now, if you are fighting for home court advantage, everybody's playing. Minus, again, you're injured. So, for example, the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Grizzlies, Warriors, T-Wolves, everybody's on deck. They're playing, and they're playing gladly. And by the way, if we're playing, we are absolutely performing to win. Now, in the East right now, it's the Magic, the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Heat are in the play-in tournament, but it's not determined right now. Remember, here's quickly for the fans. The play-in tournament, 7 versus 8, and the winner of that game will be the 7th seed, and they will play the 2nd seed in the first round. The loser of the 7-8 game plays the winner of the 9-10 game, and that winner becomes the 8th seed and will play the first seed. So, for example, if you're the 8th seed in the NBA, you're playing the Cavaliers in the first round, and in the West, you're the 8th seed, you're playing in the first round Thunder. And I know we can beat, if you're the players, I know we can beat these guys. We're the 8th seed. Who cares? Right. We can beat these guys. That's how do you think?
Yeah. So, which is what you want as a fan. You know, you got 2 games left in the season, and there's a lot of intrigue, and there's a lot of seeding, there's a lot of positioning, a lot on the line, and even a lot on the line in the sense that, you know, hey, maybe sitting some guys might be the best thing at this time. So there's still quite a bit of strategy going on. Let's take a break. When we come back, so much more, because Coach was very specific about 4 teams that we absolutely have to talk about. You don't want to miss that, and so much more here on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. All righty, sports fans, welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean. He's out for the next couple of days, and if you like what you hear here, I'm also on the air before Sean's show, the Down and Dirty. We start here at 10 to 11, and you can also catch me on our sister station, 103.998.3. ESPN, The Fan. So check it out. All right. Listen, a lot of exciting things happening. ESPN 792.1 FM, pleased to announce Breaking Benjamin is coming to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater September 27th. We're giving away a pair of tickets every day this week around the 145 topic trivia. Is that correct, James? All right. Also, the Festival of Tees, powered by the Utah Golf Association. Each day, we're giving away free rounds of golf from the best courses in the state and beyond. Listen to the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell from 10 to 11. That's me, the Sean O'Connell Show from 11 to 2, and the Drive with Spence Checketts from 2 to 6 for your chance to win. That's also coming up at Topical Trivia here in the last segment of the show, so you want to stick around to get stuff free because we love free. You can also listen to us by stream on the ESPN 700 Sports app, the ESPN700sports.com. You can tell your smart speaker to play ESPN 700. We're also on YouTube at ESPN 700 Sports Utah. And, of course, the podcast, or you can go on the ESPN 700 app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Let's see. We're back here with Coach Gordy Chiesa. Really fun conversation, fun conversations in the break. But right out of the bat, Coach, I want to ask you, who is the league MVP this year?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Thunder.
Ooh.
And I know it's Gordy. Gordy, you're aging in front of us. What are you talking about? About Nikola Jokic, who's had 33 triple-doubles this year in 1 year. It's incredible. I agree. I go back and forth, but I'm going to lean towards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because, oh, by the way, he's averaging 32.5 points per game, which is absolutely leads to the NBA. His team is right now have won 66 games and only lost 14, and he's got a great all-around game, just like Nikola Jokic also, who, by the way, he's a 3-time winner. So it's going to be either or. I would lean this year on to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because of his all-around brilliance and how his team is performing. But you can't go wrong on either guy because they're both incredible. Here's just quickly about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Here's the metrics. 32.7 points per game, 51.9 field goal percentage, 37.5 from threes, 89.9 free throw percentage. Oh, by the way, 6.4 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and 1.7 steals. So let's say the obvious is that he's got an incredible all-around game. Incredible.
That is the obvious. Yes, he is incredible all
incredible.
around. Yeah.
So this is his year to shine, and it's no disrespect at all to Nikola Jokic, who's brilliant. When I say brilliant, I'm underscoring that adjective. He's been sensational for them. But this is the year I'm going to lean towards Shai.
Well, and in the break, we were talking a little bit about both these players. And, Shai is the number 11 pick in the draft, and Jokic is like 45. And these are two of your considered the top players in the draft or in the league. And I say that, and you said that, which because to me, I'm just like, how do you know how do you know you get a great player? It just seems so many great players aren't necessarily those lottery picks, those top 5 picks, and a lot of incredible players, including the ones that are the very best in the NBA right now, aren't necessarily those players.
What happens is that when you evaluate players, I like to see them always on the road games, Scott. So when I was director of pro personnel for the Memphis Grizzlies in yesteryear, is that I used to go to games, especially only road games, to the guys I was laser focusing in on because I want to see them play on the road. If it was a college draft, I would have done the same thing also. That I want to see people play not at home games, on the road. And the reason why, because of the crowd intensity, there's different environmental things as far as going on. The rigors of travel, is it a back-to-back, etc. And then add to that, when you watch guys play, or women play, is that you want to see them perform without the ball. Do they value playing without the ball at least some of the time? Remember, hey, he or she's a major talent. They want the ball in their hands. That's correct. But part of that in the NBA, you have to share the ball with also your ultra-talented teammates. Are you willing to do that? And both those guys, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic, do it also. And by the way, so does Luka Doncic, and also so does LeBron James. What about Doncic? Doncic is having a great year, but he's injured during the beginning of the season, and where the NBA put a rule in as far as that you have to play minimum 65 games to get any of the award winners and also make all NBA. So that's the reason why. So you can only miss 17 games. So Luka Doncic would be also in that discussion also, and so would Giannis too. Now Giannis is still has enough games to play, but I lean this year towards these guys. What about Donovan Mitchell? He's having also an MVP season too, and his team is winning. He's in the top 5 also.
Yeah, it's fascinating to figure out, where you find these great players, because they're not all that top pick. And in hearing your conversation, and it's very similar to the NFL. There's so many variables they look at. Like they look at how the guy warms up, and they look at how tall was his mother. Just all these crazy things to glean any information you can, and to project that out to what this player could ultimately become. And it's fascinating. At the University of Utah, they do that with the recruiting. They look for a certain type, and they've had a lot of years in evaluating and understanding what that type is, and that's what they look for, not necessarily how many stars they have or whether they're a lottery pick. So fascinating.
Oh, Scott,
stuff.
add to that. So the only stars I know are the stars in the sky. That's the only ones I know about is the stars in the galaxy. Also, I love when I watch guys play when there's physicality involved. How do you perform when there's an element of someone puts their chest on your chest? We call that numbers to numbers. How do you respond? Do you automatically push off where it's a blatant foul, whether it's offense or defense, or do you able to understand physicality and be able to make those quick bursts to play, to be physical yourself without committing fouls? And when the smart players will generate fouls because they understand it. And that is that unbelievable thing, especially in playoff games where it's absolutely physical. And if you're not used to playing a physical type game, often you panic during the playoffs, and suddenly you're an elite scorer / talent, and you're in foul trouble early. It sets back your team and your franchise.
Speaking of being set back as franchise, of course the Denver Nuggets have fired their head coach and general manager, and it's perplexing to me. This is a guy who led them to a championship, got one of the greatest players in the world. And looks like they are at least going to compete for an opportunity to do that. I don't know if they're a real contender in the West, but help me make sense of what happened in Denver with Mike Malone.
There's no sense at all about it. So they're saying that Mike Malone, who's there for 10 years, who took a downtrodden team into a championship type level, and so the discussion is that he lost the locker room, which tells me that the players didn't want to prepare to win. Yeah. When you lose the locker room, that means that the players in front of you, they want to win, but they don't want to do the little attention to detail that helps you be a consistent winner. So in the film study, as far as individually and also in the group session, see, film studies are very, very eye-opening because the films tell no lie. They're right in front of you, and all your teammates see you at your best or at your worst. And so when I'm assuming that when Mike Malone showed films of their lack of defense by certain players, and he tried to correct it behind closed doors, and they still weren't listening. I call that, Scott, invisible earmuffs. Invisible earmuffs is when the players in front of you, they keep nodding their head. Yeah, I get it. Yes, I get it. I get it. I get it. And they do the same thing over and over again. Guess what? They didn't get it. Or if they got it, then they're not listening and performing.
When I hear this, is it a generational thing? Is it like the player today is maybe different than before, and it's you can't get through to them, or is it just a lack of effort, or is it maybe they can't do it?
It's a lack of effort. Yeah, in other words, like generational thing was where in this era, you've got a coach. I call it in sound bites, like you're on Twitter, like you're on X, where you can't get into a 5 or 6 sentence. It sounds crazy. A dialogue with a certain technique. You've got to teach it within like 30 seconds, and then you can refine it as the days, weeks, months, and years and decades go on. But the beginning, you've got to get their attention. And the way to do that is to be a master communicator. Usually speaking, teams that win, culturally, they're strong with their best players. The best players determine everything in the locker room.
Right.
On the team bus, above sea level, 35,000 feet at 3 o'clock in the morning, the best players on your team do that. So with the Denver Nuggets, it would be Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. But Murray's been in and out of the lineup, and Murray's not a defensive player. He's only scores offense. See, what happens is that. So here's Jamal Murray's contract. This year, $36 million. Next year, $46.3, 26-27, $51.5 million. Scott, are you sitting down? 27-28, $53.8 million, and the 28-29 season, $57.5. So they committed to Jamal Murray after winning the championship 2 years ago, and Jamal Murray-type players only play one side of the ball, and then Michael Porter only plays one side of the ball. He's a shooting specialist, and Aaron Gordon, it seems to me, Scott, he dribbles way too much in a game. When he gets the ball, I have a cardiac arrest thinking about it because he dribbles about 17 bounces to go no place.
Right.
And that's a problem. And then there's Jokic, who is the Rock of Gibraltar. So you see all these things that were visual. We have Jokic in the team. He can overcome most of them, but not all of them. So when Mike Malone tried to address it behind closed doors, and then what? In the locker room, the players have invisible earmuffs. Thus, the ownership, which they can do what they want to do, they own the team. They decided that they needed a new voice with their team.
Yeah, it's fascinating what these owners do, and maybe sometimes they're right, maybe sometimes they're wrong, but chemistry is a real big thing, and you got to have it. All right, you have 4 teams that you wanted to talk about today. You were emphatic about it, so we're going to do it. Let's start with the Lakers.
Lakers, they're rising, absolutely. Luka Doncic returns last night to Dallas Mavericks, the D-Town. How dare you trade me? What did you trade me for? Like, what is up with this?
They got emotional, too.
He got emotional, absolutely. He was there for 6.5 years. Usually speaking, the team that drafts you, you have an affinity for the rest of your life.
Do.
Because, especially if you're a foreign player, meaning he's from Slovenia. So he gets 45 points on them. He was absolutely sensational last night. The Mavericks had no answer to him, and it's a knockout punch. And the Lakers move on. LeBron is their both sidekicks. He gets 27. LeBron also, but Luka, it's 45. It's over. They're right now. They're the 3rd seed, 49-31, and they're absolutely trending up.
All right. How about the LA Clippers?
So interesting. They won right now 6 in a row. Add to that, in the big picture, they've won 16 out of the last 19 games. So the Clippers, absolutely. And that James Harden, who's a major talent, has that balance right now between scoring and passing. And Ivica Zubac is a major factor on the boards. And then Kawhi Leonard, he played back-to-back for the first time the other day in a long, long time. He's there always for them. And just generally speaking, the pieces do fit. So in television world and in the NBA, wouldn't it be so much fun if the Lakers play the Clippers in the playoffs? Talk about ratings. Talk about someone's good's going to be knocked out, whether it's in the second or in the second round. It's going to be sensational. So the Clippers have done a good job at their roster, and Tyronn Lue is really an accomplished coach. He's able to all the chaos. So remember, in L.A., they do drama very well because it's Hollywood. So when people do a lot of weird things on Sunset Strip, etc., in West Hollywood, it's perfectly normal for the Lakers franchise and for the Clippers.
And the Clippers kind of do it quietly. They're kind of like you don't hear a lot about them, but team maybe you got to watch out for. Okay, the Mavericks, they lost their way into the play-in, and you touched on them a little bit. Of course, here locally, Alex Jensen is going to prolong his coaching there, which kind of stymies him a little bit coaching here at the University of Utah. Where are the Mavericks?
The Mavericks right now they're a team right now in transition. Jason Kidd's a tremendous coach. Let's not forget, last year they lost in the NBA Finals, 4-1. I mean, so their roster is still good, but it's tilted. With Kyrie Irving being injured the rest of the season, they're going to make a trade. So Anthony Davis is there, and so is Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. They're going to trade probably eventually, not Anthony Davis and not Lively, but maybe Gafford to another good team. Oh, by the way, I'd love to have the Jazz have Daniel Gafford. I'd love to have that. Gafford's this young guy that's a bouncy, hustle, doesn't know any better. He's always doing something in the game. So he'd be a classic example of a guy that's vastly underrated that's got a winning game. So the Mavs, they're going to try to regroup themselves in the off season. Right now, they're the 10th seed, so they're going to try to beat the Kings in the play-in tournament on the road, and then beat the loser between probably the Warriors or the T-Wolves to get to the playoffs. So we shall see. Tough get. Could happen. It's unlikely.
And then, of course, the Suns, who took a big swing at making a championship run and just didn't quite get there. What do you got on the Suns?
The Suns, it's hard to believe they're the highest paid team in the NBA as far as payroll. Now, by the way, they're not making the playoffs. So from a business standpoint, yikes, we spend all this money on our team, and we're not even invited to the party, meaning what? The playoffs. And so they've been injured during the year. However, is that so much is chemistry. So their big three are ultra talented, meaning Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, who's been wonderful the whole season, and Bradley Beal, but the pieces don't fit. So right now they're on an 8-game losing streak, and they've lost all 8 games by double digits. So they're non-competitive. They're 29th in the NBA in overall defensive rating, and number 30 is the Utah Jazz. So here's the illustration of it, is that the Thunder are first in the NBA in defensive rating, and they might be champions, and then the Suns are number 29, and the Jazz are number 30. So that the better teams, you've got to play defense besides offense. So everybody says, well, offense really is you can't score. Also, can you defend? And that's been a huge factor for the Suns, their lack of right now. So Durant missed 18 games this year. Bradley Beal missed 28 games this year. And Devin Booker's only missed 6 games. Durant, we're going to find out, is he going to force himself out of there this off season? And we'll know between July 1st and August 1st.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch, see what they do, if they try to hold it together or move on. You got a list.
My list today.
Talk to me about your list.
Yeah, my list today, Scott, this is our final college basketball list of this season. That the Florida Gators won the championship. So, And the NBA, we talk about it all the time, but it's the last list for college basketball. This list is the college coaches who have won multiple men's basketball championships, meaning 2 or more. It's a very short list. Hey, you might coach for 40 years in college to win 2 championships, meaning Division I. It's hard to do. Here we go. With 2 championships, Hank Iba, Oklahoma State, back in the 1940s. Phil Rupert from the San Francisco Dons, who coached Bill Russell and Casey Jones back in the 50s. Ed Junker, University of Cincinnati Bearcats, who coached in the 60s. Billy Donovan, the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, coached the Florida Gators for 2 championships, and ironically, he was back-to-back in 06, 07. Dean Smith, iconic coach, 2 championships. Jay Wright, you see him all the time. He does a great job on CBS in the studio. He coached the Villanova Wildcats to 2 championships back in 2016 and 18. Rick Pitino, 2 championships, now the head coach of St. John's, 1 at Kentucky, 1 at Louisville. Bill Self, Kansas Jayhawks, 2 championships, 08 and 22. Dan Hurley, UConn, 23 and 24. Remember, in yesteryear, last summer, it seems like it was 20 years ago, he's offered the Laker job, rejected it, and now everyone's criticizing him about his team. How things change, Scott, in sports.
We're fickle.
With 3 championships, Roy Williams of the North Carolina Tar Heels, 05, 09, and 2017.
Wow.
Bobby Knight, Indiana, 3 championships, 76, 81, and 87. Jim Calhoun, the architect of the whole thing with UConn being a blue blood program, 3 championships, 99, 04, and 2011. With 4 championships, Adolph Rupp, Kentucky, back in the 40s and 50s with 4 championships. Coach K, Mike Krzyzewski of Duke, 5 championships, 1991, 1992, 2001, 2010, and 2015. And the number 1 college coach with the most NCAA men's basketball championships is John Wooden, with 10 championships, which probably might never be broken. His first one was in 1964 when he had a small team. They used to press 2-2-1 and cause havoc. And then his last team was back in 1975. So 10 years. What about in the NBA, quickly? Who has the most NBA championships as a coach?
As a coach?
Phil Jackson.
Okay.
With
that's
11.
What I would have said.
6 with the Bulls and 5 with the Lakers.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
it's so hard to do to be an elite coach at every level because things always change.
That's a great list. I mean, I think of Dean Smith, he only had 2. Like that's like I would never. And Roy Williams actually had more than Dean Smith at North Carolina. Fascinating. All right, great stuff, Coach. Really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today, and I just love the conversations. It's just always insightful and great. So appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Scott. Peace out.
All right, ESPN 792.1 FM Festival of Tees, powered by the Utah Golf Association. Each day we're giving away free rounds of golf for the best courses in the state and beyond. Listen to the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell from 10 to 11, the Sean O'Connell Show from 11 to 2, and the Drive with Spence Checketts from 2 to 6 for your chance to win. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, Paul Pugmire is going to join us. The Masters is going on, by the way. It started today. So fun. Love the Masters. Can't wait to talk to Paul. This is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah's #1 sports talk. I'm Scott Mitchell, filling in for Sean today and tomorrow. Oh boy, it's been a fun show today. Good show. There's been a little emotion, a little inspiration, a lot of great conversations with the coach. So much fun to talk to Coach Chia. I just really enjoy when I get those opportunities, and it's just the off-air conversations as good as what is on the air. Well, hey, folks, I can't wait for this conversation. So we have none other than Paul Pugmire joining us on the show right now. He is going to talk about a tradition like none other, the Masters. Paul, how are you?
It's Masters Week. I'm good, Scott. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm living the dream, and I found out it's not a nightmare, so I feel good about
it. You should.
All right, what's noteworthy about the Masters so far today?
Oh, holy cow. Where to start? So many things. Let me just run through a couple and see what catches your fancy.
All right.
65-year-old and former Master champ Freddie Couples shoots a 1 under par 71. 65 years old, and Freddie is red. Now, he rode the back of holing out from 197 yards on 14 with and he pulled the head cover. He had a hybrid, but he knocked it in the jar. So go Freddie. Rory McIlroy is playing solid and steady, which he has not done in opening rounds very, very much of. Scotty Scheffler, who has a very opposite opening round experience, is continuing his solid opening round play. We came into this week expecting Scotty and Rory to be the top players in the field, along with Colin Morikawa, and all three of them are doing well. Scheffler is currently in fourth place, -3. Morikawa is at T5, one shot back at -2, and like I say, McIlroy is kind of hold and serve. He's doing so far what he needs to do. Can't let things get too far away from him, and he's doing all right. He's just played 4 holes so far, but he's at -1. So those are the top stories out of the gate. We still have so much to go. Just a very few players have even finished.
Yeah. How is the course playing today?
That is a remarkable subject to even get into. They got a lot of water, a lot of rain on Monday, but throughout the course on all 18 greens and in strategic locations around the course, they have what's called a sub-air system that originally was designed to pump air into root systems in the grass so that the roots were at the proper temperature for optimal growing. But after this system was developed, people figured out you could reverse the flow, reverse the motors, and it would suck moisture out of the ground. And so they're able to control the moisture in the ground. It got a lot of rain on Monday, and yet the course is not playing like a dartboard because they were able to suck the water out from underneath the turf. Augusta National is a special place. There's 100 reasons, and that's one of them.
They've sucked the life out of the golf course. How dare they? Is there going to be any advantage of teeing off early and then late this week, weather-wise or anything? Is there any advantage to that?
A good question, and that's always a variable in the British Open. And the thing that's interesting about that is on those courses over there in Scotland and sometimes England, sometimes Ireland, but mostly in Scotland, you don't know if it's morning, afternoon, or afternoon, morning. Just one tends to have an advantage over the other. Here, much less so, and this week the weather forecast is pretty stable throughout the week. It should not be a variable this week.
So, from your perspective, what makes the Masters so special? Why do people make such a big deal about this?
There are many reasons, and I'm going to give you a few that pop to mind, and I'm sure to miss something important. But first of all, the origin and the the legacy of the course. It goes back to Bobby Jones, one of the legends of the game. And, Jones won what was then the Grand Slam in 1 year when he was 29 years old, and then he quit, realizing, well, what can I do to top that? And the answer is nothing. And so he hung him up at a very young age. And he developed the course together with the architect, a guy named Alistair McKenzie, who's one of the legendary architects of the game. And so the origin of the course itself is at the legend status. And then the element that this is the only major championship that is played at the same course every year. So
right.
You have a great golf course, and then you have every year you're piling more and more and more data, more memories, more experience, more folklore, all on top of what's already there because it's the same course every year. And then the course itself, it has a characteristic of, let me put it this way, it doesn't accept or reward a good shot. It'll chew those up and spit them out. lot of people can hit good shots. It only rewards great shots. The margin the margin that you have to play within at Augusta National is so tight. Yeah. And that adds to what makes the Masters the Masters. Then let me throw one more. Augusta National as a golf club, as an organization, they just simply tend to miss no detail and do things right. And so in 100 different ways, there's very thoughtful touches, things done exceptionally well. And you add it all up, and this place stands apart, this event stands apart, and it is the one we love the most.
Speaking of this golf course that never changes, it's the same great golf course, and they're always doing these tweaks to it. You've described some of the management of water and things, and they've extended tee boxes on holes and changed things from time to time. Have there been any significant changes from last year to this year on the actual golf course?
Yeah, really interesting point. The answer is yes, but they were brought about by the hurricane. They were not planned by Augusta, and so really the story this year is it's remarkable how they were able to clean the golf course up, repair the damage from the trees that were knocked over, and get it back to playing the way it always plays. So no major changes. The two most recent major changes, of course, were moving the tee back on 13, and then a few years before that, 2 or 3 years before that, when they bought Beckstead Lane from the city of Augusta and then moved the tee box on 5 back. 5 is a great golf hole, and because they were able to add length and change the angle of the tee shot by going into what was a street there, a City of Augusta street, they really made 5 a great golf hole. So, but no big changes like that. The story this year is they got the golf course back ready after the damage from the hurricane.
Who really has a chance at winning the Masters this year?
I love this question. There's really only 20 people who can win the Masters, and we know who they are. As you look back over the history of the Masters and you add up the demands that it makes of the players, where, like I mentioned, it has no margin for error, the kinds of shots it requires, for example, hitting a fade off of a hook lie, things like that at Augusta. You add in the pressure, you add in the immense difficulty of the green complexes. It really is the top 20 players in the world who are on their game right now. And so over the years, you can look at the official world golf rankings because of the way that's been messed up with the live players who are very clearly top 20 players in the world but don't show up on the world golf rankings because they're no longer getting points there. So you go to a ranking system called Data Golf, and in the top 20 in Data Golf, you capture the live players. And so, let's just go down. It's the list of usual suspects, but they've become that because they've earned it. Scheffler and McIlroy and Morikawa to start with. Data Golf has John Rahm number 4, where he's number 80 in the world golf rankings. And Justin Thomas. The one that's really interesting here is Russell Henley. Russell Henley is ranked 7th in the world on both rankings, and he has been playing really well this year. I'm quite interested to see how he does at Augusta. He's a player who plays under the radar a lot. He's not a household name, but he is a really quality player. Then you've got players like Shane Lowry, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Bryson DeChambeau, of course. Is there anybody who doesn't think Bryson DeChambeau has the game to compete at Augusta? Or how about Brooks Koepka, who has a great record at Augusta? The thing about Augusta is that it requires the very top level of play, and it requires experience. And so you look at people who have been there before, that is to say, who have played in a few Masters, who have a record of having performed in the Masters well, and who are on good form now.
It feels like to me this is a year where a lot of the big names are going to be in the mix all the way up to the end. So I always look forward to this, and watching, of course, the back nine on Sunday is just a special treat.
Yep.
Really enjoyed your time here. Really appreciate the insight. Have you ever been to Have you ever gone to the Masters, Paul?
I have, yes, I have, and I've actually had the privilege of playing the course as well.
Oh, wow!
And
Aren't you special? Did you go to the Champions Dinner too? I'm just kidding.
No, what's interesting about that is that I was there last weekend with the drive, chip, and putt finals, and Johnny Miller's grandson, Nicholas Miller, was competing in the drive, chip, and putt finals. And so Johnny was there. And Johnny has 3 second-place finishes in the Masters.
Right.
I had occasion to stand there and talk with Johnny. I've known him over the years. And he brought up, I did not ask him, he brought up how he wished he could have been in the Champions Dinner. He said, I would like to have won. He said, but it's not the trophy. It was not another win on the resume. I want to go to the Champions Dinner. I go, man, Johnny, I hear you. I hear you.
For the rest of your life. I
Great,
mean, I just can't imagine the conversation to be one of those very, very exclusive special things. Did you eat pimento cheese? That's what I want.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
I hate pimento cheese, but, I'm curious what you thought.
Well, I only ate it when I was at Augusta. It was all right.
Yeah.
But the egg salad sandwich is terrific, and the caramel popcorn is to die for, and the peach ice cream sandwich is really something.
Well, I'm jealous. So I'm not jealous of the pimento cheese, but anyways. Been a great.
Well, I hope you get the chance to go, Scott.
I've had opportunities.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I probably should do it before I die. That's my goal. That's my bucket list. Top of my bucket list. Go to the Masters before I die.
You should do it.
Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. Of course, you can hear Paul Pugmire and Jan Brownstein here on ESPN 700 from 8 to 10, Utah Golf Radio. Great stuff. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. The interview with Paul Pugmire is your Masters leaderboard update, brought to you by UNA Golf. The new TaylorMade QI 35 woods are the 4th generation of carbon wood technology. This driver unlocks a new level of distance, available now at UNA Golf. It's time to talk tanking. It's Thursday tanking here on the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. That's coming up right around the corner. All righty, sports fans, welcome back. It's the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network, Utah's #1 sports talk. Scott Mitchell here, filling in for Sean. Watching the Masters on television, the screen is here. That's going on. Great conversation with Paul Pugmire about the Masters. And they just, it's like the hits just keep coming. They have all these like really famous people that are actually at the Masters, watching the Masters. And they're interviewing them on ESPN. So.
Maybe when you make it out there for the first time, Scott, maybe you end up on the ESPN couch.
I'll sit down
with Scott Van Pelt
on the back porch for a conversation. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Fun show. Not a great day, but we're making it a great day because the freaking Utah Jazz won. What are they thinking? Drive me nuts. Can't you guys come on? Although. I know this to be true. Not all of the greatest players in the world were ever the #1 pick. Sometimes they were.
True.
Sometimes they were not.
Stockton and Malone, mid first round picks.
Yeah.
Famously here. So
let's just hope. Let's hope the 2 picks we have this year become the new iteration of Stockton and Malone. That's what I'm hoping.
We can only hope so, Scott. Let's look at what happened yesterday.
Give me a tanking update, please.
We'll look at what happened yesterday, including. We'll just rip the Band-Aid off, Scott. We'll tell the folks how the Jazz possibly could have won one of their final 3 games of the season. Well, first of all, Blazers aren't very good either. So this is the most winnable game they had left on the schedule. They got the Thunder tomorrow night at the Delta Center.
Yep.
And they've got the T-Wolves in Minnesota to end the season. And the T-Wolves are playing for a ton right now. So This is the last game they could have won, and they just happened to win it. How did it happen? Portland was up 112 to 110, about 37 seconds left. They missed from that point on. They missed 4 out of their 6 free throws, including 2 in a row. So everybody here got Chick-fil-A. Everybody was excited about that. And then, so Kyle Filipowski dunks it to tie the game at 114. 35 seconds later, couple seconds left is all. Blazers have the ball. They throw it in, nearly stolen, but they get right up to the hoop. About a point-blank layup, I would say. There was a defender nearby, but still very easily makeable layup. Rolls off the rim at the buzzer. Game goes to overtime. Jazz win 133 to 126. Keontae George with a couple of clutch OT threes. What are you doing, Keontae? Do you know what we're trying to accomplish here? But anyway.
I love your little comment in there. It's a heartbreaking win.
A heartbreaking win for the Jazz in the tank.
Yeah,
very Scott. Fun. Very heartbreaking win. Wizards also lost to the Sixers. Hornets lost to the Raptors. And then we'll look at some bonus games that factor into the secondary tank. That's the one because the Jazz have the T-Wolves pick. Did you know how I wrote bonus? Because of Sabonis and the Kings.
Oh,
the Nuggets beat the Kings. That's a bonus.
I got
That's a sub-bonus game for you. There you go. Clippers beat the Rockets. Mavs lost to the Lakers. And then the Suns lost to the Thunder. Those last 2 we're only keeping track of because of Alex Jensen. We're trying to get him here as quickly as possible. Well, it's going to be delayed a little bit because with those last 2 results, the Mavs have clinched a play-in berth. They're going to play at least one more game, Scott, after the regular season is over. So at most, Alex Jensen's official start at being the full-time head coach for the Runnin' Utes is going to be delayed about a week. So there you go. That's what happened last night. What's going on tonight? Pelicans are at the Bucks. T-Wolves at the Grizzlies. We actually have that game here on the station, Scott. Both teams trying to win. I know that's weird for our market. But we've got a game like that here on the station. 7 o'clock is when coverage starts there. Look at the standings. Jazz and Wizards now tied for first in the tank race standings. Depressing to say that sentence, Scott. 17-63. Here's some good news, though. The Jazz have clinched a bottom 3 record. Now, why is that good news? Because, as Gordy has told us a few times, and as I've said in previous tank race updates, the best lottery odds are it's 14%, and the bottom 3 records in the league, the teams with the bottom 3 records in the league, they all get the same 14% lottery odds to win the lottery, meaning getting the number 1 pick. So they've clinched at least that.
So 1 through 3 clinches you at least a 14%.
Yeah,
However, you could drop though to if you're number 1, you can drop just to 5. If you're 2 to 6.
So 3
to 7.
The only thing that's at stake in these last 2 games for the Utah Jazz is how far they can fall if they don't get the number 1 pick.
The worst case scenario,
as you just talked about. So their floor, if you will, establishing the floor is you can only fall as much as 4 spots from where you finished record-wise. So that's why it's important for the Jazz to still get that number 1 spot, because then they only fall as far as 5th. Now that puts them out of the Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey range, but the closer you are to the top, the better, obviously. There's still some good players at 4 and 5. So there you go. If they finish 2nd and the Wizards finish 1st, then they'll fall to 6th, like you had mentioned before. I don't believe the Hornets can overtake them, because I believe the Hornets won both games against the Jazz this year, but I'm not positive about that. We'll check with Sarah Todd tomorrow.
It's a good question to ask her.
Hornets are 3rd, still at 19-61. They're 2 games back of the Jazz and Wizards. Pelicans, now we said this before, they can't get any higher than 3rd in here. They're 4th right now, and they've got a very slim chance as it is to catch the Hornets. We'll still talk about them there because they still have a shot to get in that top 3 in the lottery odds. They're 21-58, 2.5 games back of Charlotte. Where are the T-Wolves? They're 8th, a half game behind the 7th place Warriors, 1 game back of the 6th place Grizzlies, who they play tonight. A game and a half back of the Clippers and Nuggets, who are tied for 4th, and 2.5 games back of the Lakers for 3rd. So very slim shot at the 3 seed still.
But it's still alive, though.
Still alive. Yeah. 3 days left in the season. Every team has less than 3 games left. The Jazz have 2. We talked about the Mavs. They clinched a play-in berth. So delays Alex Jensen's return here. And, Scott, do you want to take a break from the tank race tonight?
Please, I do.
Yes.
Help me out.
And you can keep an eye on the secondary tank while you take a break from the Jazz's tank.
It's called multitasking.
Yes, John Morant and the Grizzlies are hosting Rudy Gobert, Ant-Man, and the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Both teams, as I just outlined, have a shot at the 3 seed in the West. They could also wind up in the play-in. It's that thin a margin of error for these 2 teams. Coverage begins at 7 here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Where we're not just your home of the NBA, Scott. We're your home of the NBA games that matter, including the NBA playoffs, which gets started next weekend, Easter weekend.
The only thing we do here, James, are things that matter.
That's true.
We're very intentional with everything we do. All right, well, let's intentionally go to a break. When we come back, we're going to have Alex Markham, Ute Nation publisher for Rivals, joining us and talk a little Utes here at the top of the hour. It's the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Proud to be a part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I'm Scott Mitchell, filling in for Sean today. Been a lot of fun today. The Jazz have me a little upset. It's not the end of the world. We're still going to be up high somewhere, and who knows? We may even have the number one pick still. So don't get too bent out of shape. Really fun to watch the Masters going on, and I just love when the great players are actually out there playing. I'm a Bryson DeChambeau fan. I watch his YouTube channel. I don't know. I guess when you get to know someone personally, I don't know that I know him that well, but I know him from his public podcast he does where he tries to do these crazy things on the golf course. I don't know. I just like him. So he's kind of fun. If you want to listen to our show streamed, listen live on ESPN700sports.com or the ESPN 700 app. It's free at any of your app stores. You can also just talk to your smart speaker and tell it to play ESPN 700. We're on YouTube, ESPN 700 Sports Utah. Podcast you can get on ESPN700sports.com or ESPN 700 app and search for the Sean O'Connell Show. Right now we're in the middle of football practice up at the University of Utah. A lot of very intriguing things happening. I think it'll be fascinating when the rankings come out and to kind of see what people think of Utah. I know people are really high on BYU right now. Last week I interviewed former BYU quarterback, All-American Gifford Nielsen, and he was telling me about Jake Ratzliff looking pretty good, looking pretty strong and confident. And he's pretty high on his BYU Cougars, and not what we like to hear here in Utah country. I wonder how I if I'm a betting man, which I'm not. I wonder what will actually happen with the way people perceive Utah this year, because I don't think people are gonna. I think Utah's gonna be kind of middle of the road. Maybe lower half of the conference. Well, I'm going to hear what Alex Markham has to say. He joins us now on the program. Of course, Alex is with Ute Nation Publisher. He's a Ute Nation publisher on Rivals. Alex, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Scott, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. A lot of fun stuff going on with the spring ball, the basketball stuff up at the U, and good old Masters today, huh?
Yeah, a lot of sports and a lot of sports we love. Let's kind of start with the Utah basketball program, because we believe there's a new hire that this just happened. Eric Daniels was hired as an assistant. He's the son of Donnie Daniels, coached under Majerus and Mark Few and others. Even though Alex Jensen has prolonged his stay with the Mavericks, they lost their way into the play-in. What do you know about Eric Daniels and this new hire?
I love this hire. First glance, I mean, everybody's going to sit back and say, oh, well, that's Donnie's kid.
Right, of course.
What else to it?
Nepotism.
And yeah, and it's not in the least, it's not even close to that. Okay, just to kind of give everybody an idea. Of course, Donnie's going to talk up his kid. I know him and Alex had some initial conversations on it. Alex is a very well thought out person when it comes to those things, and he's not going to just be easily swayed, right? Even if it's somebody that he highly, highly values, So within all that, it actually had a bunch of other coaches or people around the college basketball and AAU circles in Utah to really kind of go to Alex and be like, hey, this guy, man, he wants to be a Ute. You're going to love him. He's a master at the X's and O's. I can't remember. It's one way or the other. But at Weber, it was, I want to say, the defensive scheme that he drew up. At Utah State, it was the offense, right? So he's very well versed on both sides of those with the X's and the O's and delivering a good product. He's a great talent developer, and he's got a lot of deep ties in state. Again, just really, really well thought of within basketball coaching circles, especially the ones that matter in the state. On top of that, you take a look and you add in the fact of Donnie Daniels, like you said, and again, he did not get this job because of Donnie.
Right.
But then you add in the fact of now all of a sudden, Eric's on staff, and you pretty much have Donnie Daniels, one of the more legendary assistants on the West Coast in the last 25, 30 years plus, whenever you like, and so it's a big hire for Utah. I think a lot of good things are going to come from it. It's really going to be one of those hires that probably 2, 3, 5 years from now, everybody's sitting back like, oh God, this was the most underrated hire on this staff, and this is one of the most effective ones.
It doesn't seem like still coaching with the Mavericks is impacting Alex at this point with this new coaching hire. The Utes also added Terrence Brown in the transfer portal. What do you know about Terrence Brown?
Terrence is great prospect. When it comes down to it, it was a connection with Coach Chill, Ralph Chilius. So he's got a lot of connections out in that Minnesota area. And so really kind of when it comes down to it, I mean, he's definitely got to, being a guard, he's got to improve his outside shot. That's one of the big things I see is maybe one of the red flags, and taking care of the ball a little bit better. But at the same time too, to shoot the percentage that he shot, but then still average about the 20 points a game. That says something about the type of ball player he is, and just the trust that the team has in him.
Are there other options in the portal or other places that Utah might be considering? And also, what do they need to go find and to have an impact with this team next year?
Yeah, so I know they had 3 visitors about 2 weekends ago. Okay, within that, they good prospects at the same time too. They're really kind of, again, being well thought out, taking their time on these things. They're really trying to take advantage of Zoom meetings with the guys and being able to go from there, right? And so that's something where they're trying to be quiet and low key on those ends, but at the same time too, trying to really take advantage of still being able to have long, thoughtful conversations with Alex and the recruits, to see what direction that can go and where they can go from there, and really kind of maximize, even though Alex is still with Dallas,
Right.
A guy that I'm going to be really kind of curious on, so I've been aware of Eric Daniels for a little over a week now, and around the time that I became aware of it, an old basketball player of his from when he was at Weber State, Blaze 3, went in the portal. It's another kid. He's a guard. He averages 20 points a game, just under 6 rebounds, over 4 assists. That's another kid that could be really intriguing, and just the timing of that kind of provides a lot of curiosity. Outside of that, you still got to take a look at some of the Utah guys. Jake Wallin, that's somebody I still expect him to be a Ute. I know that he's going to be taking his visits regardless, but I know he wants to be at Utah, just like Keanu Dawes wanted to. And just the fact that Keanu went in the portal and they were able to get him back so fast, that was a huge win for Alex and the staff.
It looks like they're going to make a final decision on this revenue sharing settlement with the NIL and revenue. What kind of impact? What does it mean to Utah athletics with this revenue sharing settlement going into place?
I could say one thing today and it's going to change tomorrow. It's just that's been the life of NIL, right? Honestly, it's been a nonstop headache for people like me that cover the team and people that are actually in there and making the money decisions. And so I feel like it's going to level the playing field quite a bit when it comes to things, but at the same time too, I mean, you're still going to have the side NIL stuff that is pretty much ran by a clearinghouse again. I mean, it was really weird just how, oh gosh, the last couple of years it just kind of seemed like that went out the window and just any kind of deal just went, right? But there's going to be a lot more guardrails on those things now. And then on top of that, I mean, teams are still going to find the gray areas, and every team out there finds the gray areas. Who's going to do it better? It's the yet to be determined thing, and it's just the crazy life of college sports now that we all have to deal with, whether we like it or not.
When I started the segment, I was talking a little bit about where you think people will perceive Utah going into the football program going into the 2025 season. Where do you think Utah ranks right now in the conference, and based on who they have and kind of where you think they might play next year?
And I'd love to give an answer on that and feel extremely confident on it. But, at the same time, too, I mean, just how the transfer portal shakes out and everything. And look, Utah was not, they didn't have the talent last year to be one of the bottom end teams in the Big 12, and so what they've done with filling like the necessary holes and everything, they still got to figure some stuff out at cornerback. They still got to get depth at defensive tackle. I expect them to be able to do that, as soon as spring ball hits. I expect Utah to be no worse than middle of the conference. At the same time, still being able to compete for that championship, because I mean, you take a look at the guys like Wayshawn Parker and Devin Dampier and just some of the depth that they've built. I really don't see them being much. I don't see them being worse than middle of the conference, and I see them competing for the conference championship.
Yeah, the Big 12 is always such a crapshoot, and there's different winners every year, and it might be the most balanced conference, maybe top to bottom. I mean, maybe there's some bottom teams that aren't very good, but the teams everyone thought were the bottom teams ended up winning. So it's just
nuts.
It's nuts. And then you see what Texas Tech has done in the transfer portal, and I mean they kind of went all in and spent big, and so that'll be fascinating to see if that actually plays out and how that plays out, and so it's going to be very intriguing what happens in the conference this year.
The one thing too, just kind of adding on to what you were saying about Texas Tech, and so obviously talking about the NIL and everything. The one thing that has kind of been noticeable with Utah is, you take a look at it, and a lot of the guys that they added, I mean, they added some big guys this offseason, but there were a lot of depth plays. Or if you take a look back, if you look at this year and then take a look back like 5 to 7 years ago, it almost kind of feels like the same approach they had about 5 to 7 years ago. And those recruits ended up leading Utah to some of their biggest successes, right? And so Utah is always going to be Utah. They're always going to develop their guys. They're always going to get more out of their guys. As long as they're healthy, they're going to get more out of their guys than most coaching staffs would. And so, again, it's a crapshoot. You just don't know, especially because, how NIL's changed everything just from a weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
What's been a bright spot in spring football this year?
A big bright spot. They keep talking about needing to add the playmakers, and they're there. I just feel like the pecking order needs to shake out. Zach Williams is going to be an absolute stud. He's coming in. If I remember correctly, he didn't play the amount of games. He played just under the amount of games to be able to redshirt. So he'll be a redshirt freshman this year. He's going to be wide receiver 1. Up at the scrimmage, man, I'm telling you guys, it was very apparent that Devin Dampier is doing everything he can to make him his go-to guy and really kind of build that comfort level. And it's apparent between the two. He's that type, you can go up and get it. He's big after the play. He's just a reliable target. So that's going to be a good one to watch. Other guys really kind of developing as the playmakers. Dallin Bentley is going to be a big one for Devin, as well as I can see like little signs of Landon King kind of breaking out of that funk that he was in last year and being able to emerge. Other than that, there's always the fun little storylines of different guys kind of emerging just out of nowhere. Jackson Benny, his brother was up at Utah just before him. His brother, I believe, if I remember right, his brother was at least a tight end for a portion of the time. Jackson's a safety, and he came to Utah, and he's immediately balled out as a walk-on, and he's earning time. I would not be surprised if by the end of spring ball this kid has a scholarship, because he was one of the main ones making plays during the scrimmage, but he's also been one of the main ones that's even been highlighted throughout spring ball. And again, it's always crazy because it's like there's always one guy that just kind of slips through the crack that always emerges at Utah every 1 to 2 years. Yeah, that they talk about and then just goes on and blows up on the scene. I mean, that was Karene Reed a few years ago. The first time I was told about him being basically the MVP of their camp, of their spring ball. I just looked at my source and I was just jaw dropped, like, there's no way in hell he's a walk on, and look at him now, So a lot of positives, still some questions. I'm sure that you'd probably ask me this too, but the one thing that is really kind of a concern right now is just kind of how the cornerbacks have been dropping a little bit. A couple of them going into the portal. They actually had another kid that was one of the top kids in the recruiting class this last year, just get out of his scholarship with Utah because of family reasons. And the guys that they've brought into the portal, they've kind of changed their approach with them, going away from speed a little bit and going for more like size and length. And there's been countless times where there's been balls that should have been intercepted and those guys are dropping them. That's an area that they've got to improve on, or they've got to find other guys in the portal that are going to be able to get those turnovers.
You mentioned the cornerbacks. You mentioned the defensive line a little light, because that's one of the big things with spring ball is to identify where you're strong and weak. And is there any other position, any other situation maybe they might look to bolster after spring ball?
I can see wide receiver being one of them. Again, they've got playmakers, but at the same time too, if you can get somebody that you feel like's really going to be a difference maker, you want to be able to do that, because one of the things with Dampier is he really likes rolling out of the pocket and extending the play and just waiting until one of the defensive guys breaks their assignment and he's got one of his guys wide open. That's where fans are going to see a lot of big plays this year, and just a lot of wow moments with Dampier. And so you gotta get him no shortage of guys that can be able to do that and be explosive after the catch. So that's definitely an area that I think that they can improve on. If they can add another difference maker at running back too, I think that that's really important. Because there's guys behind Parker, but at the same time too, I mean, right now you got Daniel Bray, who's $175 soaking wet, and he's a stud. But yeah, I mean, everybody saw last year what Deshaun Stanley could do in the run game. You couldn't run him up the middle, and so it limited him, But yeah, I mean, Utah's definitely going to take advantage of what they're seeing this spring and be able to bolster those positions. I have no doubt, especially they'll, who knows what route they go at the defensive tackle spot, but that position, for instance, I mean, that always seems to work out. It doesn't matter how little depth those guys have in the room at the time.
Yeah. Great stuff. Really enjoyed talking to you today. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
You got it. All right, there you have it. Alex Markham, the Ute Nation publisher on Rivals, just joined us. Great insight. New exciting things happen with the basketball program, and of course, be fun to watch how the Utes put it all together on the football field this year and see if they can get back into contention for another conference championship. We're going to take a break. We come back. I'm going to tell you about the most intense, trust me, the most intense game I ever played in and was a part of. This is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. But before we get out, the Festival of Tees on ESPN 792.1 is powered by the Utah Golf Association, and each day we're giving away free rounds of golf for the best courses in the state and beyond. Listen to the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell from 10 to 11. That's me. And the Sean O'Connell Show from 11 to 2. And then the Drive with Spence Checketts from 2 to 6 for your chance to win. We're going to give it away. We're going to give you a secret word, topical trivia here, and you can win a round of golf. So stay around for that. This is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 791 FM. All righty, sports fans, welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah's #1 sports talk. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean. I do a show here on ESPN 792.1 called The Down and Dirty. We do it for an hour right before Sean's show. And we do it on our sister station, 103.9, 98.3. Go check it out. That's from 1 to 2. Now, Sean's show goes on there, but so you just what you do is you stream one of them. So you never miss any of it because you don't want to miss any of our stuff because it's good. It's really good. I'm going to digress for a moment, if I may, James. I got my haircut on Tuesday.
Oh.
I don't know if you noticed or not.
I
certainly didn't say anything.
I'm so sorry,
So that
Scott.
means it must be a terrible haircut.
Yes.
It's usually people go, well, man, like you got a haircut. It looks good. And you didn't say anything to me
That's
today.
my mistake, Scott. I'm so sorry. It looks great.
So you want to know the most demoralizing thing to me when I go get my haircut?
What is it?
Well, there are a lot of bald people in the world. Now, you have a very nice head of hair.
Yes, I'm blessed that way.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I have all my hair, and I'm 57 years old, and I'm not even very gray.
Yeah, you're not very gray
No,
at all. I was going to
no.
say you've got some great hair yourself, Scott.
I have fine hair, right?
Yeah.
But you know where hair grows the most on me? Like the most. And it drives me nuts. Do you want to guess? It's a body part. You can guess. It's a family show.
Is it chest?
No, I don't have a ton of chest hair.
Okay.
It's in my ears.
Your ears.
Oh man, as I've gotten older, I think that's the sign of older age is when you start growing hair like in your ears, and it grows ferociously.
Yeah.
Like it grows like on the top part of my ears, like the big flappy part, and it grows down, in the edges. It grows. It's like so I can't be ungrateful for my hair because I have hair, right?
You
And I have friends who
don't need so much of it on the ears.
I wonder if I could maybe donate my ear hair to someone who does it. Like you could transplant my ear hairs because I would do it for free. I would be happy, and that's one of those things. I wonder if you could actually do because they do hair transplants and they're very successful.
Yeah.
Very tedious and very painful.
You can donate your hair for them to make wigs out of too. Yeah.
Maybe I do that. I don't know if I could grow my ear hair long enough for a wig, but man, I'm
not sure that ear hair wigs would sell very well either, Scott. I'm not sure. Maybe you just don't say what kind of hair it is. It's human hair. It's a human hair wig.
Right, and you just don't.
You don't say where
the hair comes from. Yeah. And it's not from a personal area either, so that's the one place you wouldn't want one.
It's from a human head.
Yeah.
How about that?
Anyways, I'd give up my ear hair for anyone who's bald, if anyone's interested. All right.
So that's what concerns you when you get a haircut.
Oh no, it's not concerning. Well,
not concerning, but it's one of the things that bugs you.
Yeah, because my hair guy, Mark.
Shout out to Mark.
Yes, and he's down in Springville, and I get one from him every time, and I have for years.
And if Mark, because he lives in Utah County, is more of a BYU fan, we forgive you, Mark. Yeah. We appreciate you keeping.
He might be. He might not. I don't know.
Maybe he's not much of a sports fan.
No, he's a sports fan.
We forgive him for that.
He's probably listening
right
now.
Okay. Well, shout out to Mark.
Yes, and Mark's a great guy and does a great job. So, but he goes, boy, you have a lot of hair today, and he was going to town on my ears. Like he had all these little special devices that he had to dig down in there and I thought they were power tools for a minute, getting the hair out of my ears. It's terrible. Hated it. So this morning, my producer Martin Kelly, he loves to ask me questions.
Yes, he's a very curious guy, and he asks some great questions.
And he really does. And so he asked me this question about what was the most intense, or I guess the most pressure filled or biggest game you ever played in.
Yeah.
And I never played in a Super Bowl. Played in the playoffs. The playoffs are always a lot of pressure. Played some big games in college.
You played
against some big teams. You
played against BYU every year. That's always pressure packed.
Yeah, and won, mind you, 57-28. If anyone's asking. First
one
time
that might have broken a long streak.
Yeah, first
too.
time in 10
maybe
years.
an important game.
It was a big deal to the folks, and glad to make the Ute faithful give them something to cheer about.
Yeah.
But this is none of those, and this is in a sense it was like a playoff game. So it was 1997, yeah, with the Detroit Lions, and we were it was last game of the year, and we were playing the New York Jets, and it was when Bill Parcells was coaching for the Jets at the time. The game was in Detroit. Now the Silverdome.
And with the Jets, remind me, the Jets,
New
were
York
they
Jets.
playing for
So
a
both-
playoff spot
So
too?
both of us were playing. The winner of the game made the playoffs. Now they were in the AFC, we're in the NFC, but still, the game had playoff implications.
Gotcha. So even though you weren't playing for the same playoff spot,
No, but we
you
were
both
playing for
needed
the
a
playoffs.
win to get
Yes.
in. Okay.
Yeah. So it was
a lot of stakes on that.
A lot of stakes on that game, but in the Silverdome at that time, 88,000 people. Like the Silverdome was extremely loud, and both of us were really good football teams. I mean, we were tough football teams, and so it was the game in and of itself was like just very intense.
Was Keyshawn Johnson with the Jets at this time?
I'm not sure. He might have been. He might have.
Because I remember he was drafted by the Jets by Bill Parcells.
Correct,
So
yeah.
I do know it was somewhere in that era. Okay.
And so yeah, I don't
May have been his rookie year.
Now
second
Aaron
year, somewhere
Glenn,
in
who's
there.
now the head coach for the Jets, was a starting defensive back.
Oh, okay.
And Aaron was a very good player.
And also a Lions defensive coordinator recently. So
Right.
there you go. Full
Yeah.
circle.
Right. Yeah. I forgot about that part. Anyways, he was so this very intense game. Now, in the game and during the game, Barry Sanders reaches the 2,000-yard milestone. Which
it was that season that he
It was that season
okay.
and that game. And that was one of the storylines going into the game. Playoffs on the line. Barry Sanders is close to 2,000 yards.
What was he? He had to have been under 100 yards away, maybe.
It was like it was about 120 yards. 100.
Okay.
It was over 100 yards he had to get, and it didn't happen till kind of sometime in the, I want to say maybe early third quarter when it actually happened, and they had kind of held Barry in check, and then he just had this one of these Barry runs, and it was long, and so everyone so they stopped the game, right, and so we're out there, we're fighting for the playoffs. It's a bloody, tough physical game. And then Barry Sanders hits this milestone in an insane arena. The sound and the volume, and it is just palatable. It's just such an incredible environment to be in. And so Barry's doing this. We're winning the game. Things are looking good. And then all of a sudden, a player gets injured. And it seems pretty benign, right? And so and it was a defensive player. One of our linebackers got hurt, and we're standing on the sideline, and there's a long pause, and then all of a sudden, players from the defense are screaming for someone on the sideline to come out on the field, and they want the equipment manager out there because the player, his name Reggie Brown, linebacker, really good linebacker. Broke his neck, and I didn't know it. No one really knew it at the time because it didn't seem like. And they show replays, and you're just like, I don't know what happened. It didn't even look like he
just looked like a regular play.
It didn't even look like anything. He had a visor on his helmet and his face mask, and he had broken his neck, and so his tongue relaxed and fell back into his throat. And you don't move someone who breaks their neck, right? Because you don't want to, you could make it a lot worse. So they couldn't take his helmet off. They couldn't access his mouth
because of the
visor, and he died on the field. And the play. In fact, Luther Ellis, who we were teammates together, Luther was on the field, and he says, "I watched him die." And the doctors and the athletic trainer and everyone they're trying to get this helmet off without moving his head, so they had to unscrew his face mask They needed the equipment manager to run on the field with a screwdriver, and it's just almost a comedy of errors.
Wait, so he passed away, or is it,
he's dead on the field?
Yeah,
and while they're getting a coach, the equipment manager, to get out there with and players are screaming and running.
Chance to he's died, but a chance to, with CPR to,
they want to
resuscitate him.
So they
right?
get his face mask off and they perform CPR. And then we have another player who's one of our Kevin Glover, who's a center on our football team. He goes out on the field, and all of a sudden he starts running to the other end of the field and up the ramp to go chase the ambulance that they had there. To bring the ambulance on the field. It's like, this guy is in serious trouble.
We need paramedics. Yeah.
And so now when you see players freaking out and running down the field and the equipment manager and it just goes dead silent. So you're in the middle of this unbelievably intense game, the pressure, the excitement of the playoffs. Barry Sanders rushes for 2,000 yards. Now a guy dies. It was just the craziest thing in the world. So they take him off in the ambulance. He's broken his neck, and that's something that the Detroit people are familiar. Mike Utley broke his neck in a game, and lived in a wheelchair and still does to this day. But Reggie actually recovered from it. They revived him. We didn't know it at the time.
So you thought he'd passed away.
We had no idea what happened.
Oh, okay.
So we're
just know he was taken off the field.
Just so the people know. Later on, it turned out well, but in the moment we had no idea. In fact, I remember they brought us up. They gathered the team together on the sideline after everything settled down, and Bobby Ross was our coach, and he said, "We've spoken with the commissioner." And I'm like, "Why do you have to speak to the commissioner?" And the commissioner has okayed that we continue the game. And I'm like, what?
You're like, of course we can.
And right, I didn't, he goes, and he said, and he goes, and it looks like Reggie's gonna live.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I didn't know that it was that serious. I had no idea. And so it was the most bizarre thing you could imagine. And then at that point, we go back on the field. They resume the game after quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
And there was no energy. Like there was no energy in the crowd. There was no energy from either team. And everything had just, like, they just poked a pin in the balloon and it just deflated. And it was just gone. And we did win the game and we did make the playoffs. And oh my goodness, was it just an emotionally just draining game for all of the great reasons. It's the playoffs and you're going to make the playoffs and the crap. And that's all exciting. 2,000 yards. And then it flips the other side. And you're like, we just had a teammate die. And when you play, when you're in a game and you have an injury like that and it's really serious like that, it hits everyone really hard when you're playing. It tugs at you in a way that's just, it brings everything into a very sharp focus of how hard the game is and when the chances of that happening are real, and
things bigger than football stuff creeps in for sure.
So here it's not like for the Super Bowl or winning a playoff game or winning the national championship or bowl game. It was the end of the season. It was a regular season finale game, unbelievably full of just pressure and emotion and just sadness and joy and it just across the board was just an incredible moment. And the good side of it is that Reggie Brown literally walked away from it. They said he was like one in a one. It was like I believe he was like 1 in 100,000 actually.
Wow. Who
actually have a break their neck and actually don't have long-term implications from it. And of course Reggie never played again. And it was a great young player on our football team. So
but alive and well, fully recovered,
lives a healthy life. And so it's always good. But that was a crazy
insane
thing.
I'd never heard that story, Scott.
Yeah.
And that, Like we just recently, a couple of years ago, had DeMar Hamlin who suffered cardiac
Right.
arrest on the field
Yeah.
and literally died and was revived a
Yeah.
couple different times, once on the field and once in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. I mean, when you saw that, that had to have brought back a lot of those memories with what happened to Reggie, right? Even though different injuries,
Yeah.
but similar kind of situation.
Yeah, and you know, anytime what it does to you is you don't really think about how significant and how hard and how dangerous football can be when you're playing. Because to you, it's always a game. It's fun. It's exciting. But there every once in a while, you just get reminded of, people have died from playing this game,
or they've gotten paralyzed
or significant
something.
injuries.
Yeah.
Or over time, there's, who knows, the brain images or long-term impacts of that. I've been tested for my brain, and it's actually normal, which
That's
a part
good.
of me is disappointed because I have no excuse. Like the really dumb things I do are from a very sound mind. So I'm very, very soundly an idiot, and I live with that. So it does get very sobering.
Yeah.
But look, my whole experience with football, and I know there's people that go, I want to play sports and all this stuff. The great experiences I've had from it, like, pale in comparison to the minimal chance that you could be injured like that. And if I had to start over and do it all again, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
And guys, like, you've heard guys, and I don't know, I'm not going to speak for Reggie, but guys who've had really bad injuries or really scary incidents like he had, you've heard those guys say, and we've seen DeMar Hamlin get back on the field, but you've heard those guys say, I'd do it again. And I don't, like I said, I don't know about Reggie specifically, but guys who've been in some of those situations, like, that's how much I loved playing football.
I talked to Ronnie Lott because he had famously chopped his finger off.
Yeah.
And he did it because he said, just cut it off, because if I have surgery, I won't be able to play next season. And so, but if they just chopped it off, he'd be able to play. And I asked him about that because he's known as this really tough guy and all that stuff. And he goes, it's a very sobering reminder that I see every single day. And it reminds me of how much I sacrificed to play the game of football. And he says, so, it is great and it is enjoyable and I love it and I would do it again, but it comes at a price, and a pretty significant one.
It does.
Well.
Yeah. And just last thing on your story, you talked about just how there was no energy from the fans or from you guys on the field.
Yeah.
It makes you it feels like the NFL probably learned a lot from that incident to the time that what happened with DeMar Hamlin to say, these guys can't play the way they postponed that game.
Totally. Yeah, and it does. And and in a situation like that, it's probably better that you don't play the game.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a break. We'll come back. I think we might have a little conversation with Spence Checketts. The drive's coming up here in a bit. This is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah's #1 sports talk. Okay, we're going to do it right here. We're going to give – this is a twofer. You're going to get a twofer here. So you're going to text in a word. I'm going to give you a word, and you text it in. You'll get 2 tickets to Breaking Benjamin on September 27th at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater, and a 1-round 18 holes of golf at Talon's Cove. It's part of the Festival of Trees, brought to you by the Utah Golf Association. All right, so here's the secret topical trivia twofer for the day. What is, ready for this? What is the nickname of the state of New Jersey? The nickname, Coach Gordy Chiesa gave us the nickname for the state of New Jersey. Text that in, 877-353-0700, and you get a twofer. Tickets and a round of golf. Joining us here, we're so honored, with none other than Spence Checketts.
Honored?
Honored.
Wow.
Always honored.
Look at that.
No, I actually really enjoyed talking to you, Spence, and I appreciate the realness of our conversations, and they're good. They are good, and I actually really appreciate it.
It's kind of you to say. I don't know any other way to be, and it's probably good and bad, to be honest with you.
But is it really ever bad?
Yeah. I think in a place like Salt Lake that at times can be a little passive-aggressive.
Okay.
And sometimes like assertive communication. I was raised by a therapist. Most people know my father, but my mother's a therapist.
Oh.
Columbia University, master's.
Oh, wow.
So I was raised by a very competitive-driven man and a therapist of a woman. So I was raised to communicate directly, assertively. And, yeah, I think sometimes that makes people around here uncomfortable because around here some people like to say hello to your face, and as soon as you turn around, they like to stab you in the back. You know?
Got it. Yeah.
I'll stab you in the front, Scott.
and you're happy to do it too, right?
If it has to be done, but I'm not going to stab you in the back. You're going to know where you stand with me all the time.
So my mother was not a therapist, but my mother told you how it was.
Love it.
My mother was not. We had a phone call one time, and she met these new people at church, and they had a bunch of boys, and so they named their boys. The oldest son was named Daniel Scott, and the husband, his favorite football player, was Dan Marino.
Oh, okay.
And they were at the University of Utah when Scott Mitchell was there, so we named him after Dan Marino and Scott Mitchell.
2 third persons in one sentence, Scott. I like it.
And my mom goes, "Well, Scott's my son." So my mom tells me this. And I asked my mom, I'm like, why did I get the middle name? And she goes, well, you weren't as good as Dan Marino.
Well, you didn't need your mom to tell you that, Scott. I could have told you that.
Yeah, but, moms, you kind of expected,
Yeah.
You were amazing. You were the most incredible player I've ever seen in
No,
my life. And my mom was like, no, he was actually better than you.
Well, but you were damn good, Scott. I mean, look, I always want to know where people stand, and I promise you will always know where I stand. If you ask anybody who is in, my ecosystem, family, friends, coworkers, if I'll go third person on you. If Spence is upset with you, you're gonna know. There's gonna be no doubt left.
So, are you also telling me that Dan Marino was better than me? Is that?
Well, do you think Dan Marino was better than you, Scott? I'll just answer your question with a question. There are some people that believe that he's the best to ever do it, regardless of accomplishment.
I'm with that group.
Are you really?
Oh yeah.
Interesting. Well, you saw it up close. Yeah.
I was starstruck for 2 years. Like I didn't even know how to address it. Like, is it Mr. Marino?
Yeah.
Is there anything I can get you? Watching it practice every single day, because he was really adamant about the way he practiced, and he was just practice to him was everything, and it was beautiful. I go, how did he throw that?
Yeah.
What happened in his brain to and with me, and he, look, this whole thing about mentoring is BS with players. You don't have a responsibility to mentor, and nor did anyone. Like Joe Montana never mentored Steve Young. Dan Marino never mentored. Brett Favre never mentored Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not a believer in that. Nor did I expect him to. But the few things he did tell me, he's like, you got to drop back faster. You got to get rid of the ball quicker.
See, that
was, but it was, believe it or not, those simple things were, it's not any more complicated than that.
But that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, was he, because he always seemed like a really, like a cool guy.
Yes.
You know, like
he was awesome to me.
Okay, good. Because, you know, Steve Young, friend of the show, has been on several times, and he was on my podcast a number of years ago. We did like 2 hours. It was really cool. And we dug into the Montana relationship.
I'm sure, yeah.
And, you know, from what Steve shared, like, it's not like he was, well, actually, yeah, he was a little bit of a jerk to Steve.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure he was.
Yeah, and I would imagine whether it's you and Dan Marino or Steve Young, Joe Montana, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and obviously Aaron had some learned behavior from Brett because when they drafted Jordan Love, you know, Aaron had no time for him. And to your point, it's not your job. But if your eventual replacement is drafted and on your team, that's got to be an awkward thing in the locker room from time to time.
It is, and it does get that way. And it gets that way when the other player gets playing time.
Yeah.
See, before Dan got hurt, it was like, I was just this backup.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I start playing it, and I'm the AFC Offensive Player of the Week in my first game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the AFC Offensive Player of the Month in my first month. And he's giving me, he's like, man, do this. And he's telling me stuff during the game. He says, hey, they're, you know, and then all of a sudden these things start happening, and he goes silent, right? He's like, I'm not telling you anything else. You know, you're on your own, buddy.
That's great.
And there was talk, you know, of like, we should trade Marino, you know, because this young kid, look, he's playing great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value. So they're more your friend when you're not playing. But as soon, you know, and it's just human nature.
Oh, for sure. We all want to keep our jobs.
And
you know,
we talked about it before on the show. I was like you hog all the reps.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want the backup to get any reps.
Yeah.
One, because you need the reps, and two, because we don't want to find out how good the backup actually is.
Right.
So keep him out, keep him away, keep him. And it's not. I had an amazing experience. I sat between Don Shula and Dan Marino for 4 years.
That's so cool.
It was just unbelievable. But yeah, I wasn't that way with other quarterbacks in situations I went to. I was like, I want to be the guy on the field, and if you ever get your turn, you get your turn. Yeah.
It's interesting about the first team reps. You were good last year to walk us through, you know, the conversation week in and week out about Cameron Rising. And, you know, there were weeks of ambiguity where the reports out of practice were, no, Cam is good to go, but he's splitting first team reps with Isaac or whatever. And I remember having you on the show. I'm like, if you're Cameron Rising and you're healthy, don't you want all the reps with the first team? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. You know, and look, ultimately it turned out a lot of it was a smokescreen, that Cam wasn't right. I do think, and we're having Morgan Scally on the show today, and I'll ask Morgan, what sort of calming presence does the lack of ambiguity at quarterback bring to the entire team? Because we've had Jason Beck and Coach Witt on the show over the past month and a half, and I've asked them both, is Devin the guy? And they both said, yes, we're riding with Devin. And I do think there's probably something to the dynamic of knowing who's under center and not having this dog and pony show every week. Quite frankly, Scott, that's what it turned into. Where is it Cam? Is it Isaac? Who's it going to be? And it was 2 straight years of that. And I always want to be clear, Cameron Rising should always be remembered around here as a legend for what he did when he was right. But I do think at the end, it's just like that relationship that you have that was great for a while, just ran its course. And so give you a hug, good luck, and let's move on. I think that's kind of where everybody was at with Cam.
I'm a huge believer. I'm not a believer in quarterback competitions.
Oh, interesting.
Not at all.
Oh.
I'm a believer in you establish a pecking order from day one, because you know who the guy is.
Sure.
I mean, everyone knows who it is. Even the quarterbacks know it, and so you because I want to see how that number one guy handles practice. When you talk about having that confidence and the way you carry yourself, the way you practice, the way you talk in practice, the way you perform, are you comfortable being the leader? And when you're put out there, let's see if you handle it well, because some guys don't.
Yeah.
Some guys like, oh,
yeah.
They and then if you're the backup, I want you to be pissed. I want you to fight. I want you to not be comfortable where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, and if you just throw in the towel and just say I'm out, it's like, well, that's the guy I don't want to have.
Yeah.
I want to have someone I know I can count on in a tough situation. So
yeah.
And that's why I've always been a big believer of that pecking order, because it puts people in a role, and you want to see how they handle that role. And
For sure.
If they handle it wrong, then they're done.
Yeah, no, really interesting. So, yeah, we're going to have Morgan on today, so we'll do some Utah spring football.
Nice. Yeah, that'll be really
It's going to be fun.
All right, let's wrap it up here. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Scott.
Yeah. The Drive with Spence Checketts is up next. This is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Thanks for tuning in. We've had a great day today, and until then, we'll see you then.